Hey everybody, Big J, Anderson Mountain View Farms. Glad to see y'all again today. Got Lil in the camera say hey.
Hi.
Got TB here with me.
Hey.
Got Shiff with the big hair.
Hi.
Now, we're going to be talking about math again. One of my favorite subjects. But first, let's talk to Shiff. Shiff, you were at one time pretty afraid of fractions, but she does a great job with it now. So what are some areas that you really use fractions on a regular basis?
I use it for like making cornbread and for like doing baking for the farmers market.
Okay, so she does a lot of that. She does a lot of baking around here. She does a great job, farmers market stuff. And so she's really utilizing those fractions. And so it's helped to tame Shiffer's hair. So we're pretty happy about that. So don't get intimidated by it. Shiffer's a workhorse just like me. She's done a great job with it. So TB, how about you?
Well, we used some graphic math to make this graph to track our milk production.
I'm sorry, it just brought tears to my eyes because I didn't ask them to do this. They just did it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it just chokes me up. And hey, if you think I'm a girl, I can't do math, not sure. Our ladies are great at math. Okay, TB.
Well, to start from the bottom, we were just using a log to track our milk production. But then we came up with the idea of using a graph to just take a look at it and see if it was going up at all or going down to help see how the goat was doing.
Right, so yeah, great chart. You can see it just got the simple X and Y axis. So we're going to get into dealing with these big five just here in a second. But I just want to show you that. And so you can do it. They're young and they do a great job creating a log and did a great job on this graph. Now, so let's start out. The first obstacle, and that is problem solving. Now, problem solving, this is what happens with pretty much any kind of math, is it goes from words, whether spoken or written, computation, you think just the symbols, 2 plus 3, right? And then finally you put it back into words, like an analytical report or something like that. So that's kind of the loop that happens with word problems or just working through math in general. In the real world, that's how it works, and we do it all the time. And so the only way to get good at that is you have to practice. You have to do word problems again and again and again and again. And that's why I recommend Ray's Arithmetic. Come out in the 1880s, 1890s, that kind of era, late 19th century. These texts are copyrighted for that year anyway. And so, but we'll take something like this is Ray's new intellectual arithmetic. You'll have something that says this. 1/5 of a pole is in the mud, 2/5 are in the water, and 14 feet in the air. How long is the pole? There's fractions involved, and of course it is words. It is problem solving. It's real world. And our ladies and our young boys are accomplishing this too. Is that it's a lot of that. It's a lot of reading the words, reading the numbers, assimilating all of this stuff. It's a lot of work, and it is not easy. However, it has really paid off in the long term. So when they get to stuff that's much more complicated, and that's not simple either, they'll be able to have a good handle on it. It'll pave the way for anything that they want to do in life. So very happy with that. But I really like Ray's Arithmetic. It goes back. It takes a lot of work. I think when it comes to doing problems, you should spend most of your time doing word problems. One word problem, extracting the computation, doing the computation, then putting it back into a word problem. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. But that is something that I think is really critical. When it comes to time in general, TB, our oldest, she spends about 90 minutes a day in math. Not quite as much, but definitely pretty close. You've got to spend the time in it. You may need to cut out other things in your life that you've done. But to really focus on that, shore up the word problems, it takes time and it takes work. So you need to make sure that you stay on that. And you may, like I said, you may have to cut out other things in your life to get to that point. Now, the second thing that we're going to look at here is, of course, fractions. People kind of freak out about fractions. They get confused about fractions. They get intimidated by them. But they can be overcome. And they have to be overcome in developing the analytical mind and using it for personal stewardship and professional success. We think of things like if you're doing daily baking, you're doing your daily budgeting, a lot of things are in fractions. Fractions and decimals are kind of hand in glove. You kind of go back and forth between the two. Now, the other thing that you see a lot specifically professionally is when it comes to carpentry, electrical work, heating and air, engineering, so much use in fractions because very few things are in whole numbers or in integers, if you will. Fractions are very dominant. When you look at a ruler, when you're looking at reading a beaker, all that stuff is in some kind of fraction, basically, at least if it's in standard unit. Then you're going to have to be able to read that thing and see the different parts of it and look at it quickly and run through those least common denominators and not get bogged down and hung up and confused and panic. The third thing, of course, that I want to give a little more attention to, and that's the graph. That's what the ladies did a great job of. And then you see these outliers here, like what happened. There was one day of spilt milk. Excuse me? Yeah, it's okay to cry over spilt milk. It's okay, especially when you did it. Goat milk's worth a lot. But anyway, you can see these outliers. It gives you a good snapshot. But if you're having trouble, do I go out the tree, then up the house, or out the back door? How do I even do this, right? You're going to have a problem. I've had students that were higher level math, and they still were having trouble with basic plotting points. And if you're having trouble just plotting points, when you get to the higher level of negative slopes, and you're getting into parabolas, hyperbolas, all kind of other stuff, sine waves, then you're going to be totally lost. You're going to have a hard time. You're going to give up. You're like, I can't do this. I'm just dumb. I'm not good at math. But really, if you'd have just conquered some of the foundational things of just plotting points and reading the first quadrant, you would have actually found yourself not doing too bad in it. So that's something that we really want to shore up. The fourth thing is negative numbers. They're everywhere. They're all throughout math. They're used all the time. They're oftentimes used in accounting. When you debits, credits, you're going back and forth, up and down. The different quadrants, of course, in a graph, second, third, fourth quadrant, all of that stuff. You've got to be able to master negative numbers. If you don't master negative numbers, then trying to springboard into higher math is pretty much impossible. You've got to be able to do that. The fifth thing, of course, is the exponents roots. That's just with squares and cubed, or going back and forth, right? So your cube root, square root, or square and cubed. Some of the major components of that, when you look at, like, say, in the field of construction, home building, there's a whole genre, if you will, when it comes to covering with paint, covering with wallpaper, covering how many square feet is going to take to do a house, and covering it with either wood, tile, or for the floors. You got the roof line, of course, and it's a three-dimensional object. That really adds a big layer to everything. And so you've got to be able to do that if you want to succeed in those analytical career fields, whether it be trade, consumer, or higher engineering, physics, and that type of thing. And so if I say, what's the square root of 81? And you're thinking, I don't know, get the calculator out. If you're not just thinking 9 right off, you're going to have a hard time. Or I'll say, hey, what's 10 squared and 100? Then you're going to have a hard time. You got to be able to take into account all of these things. So many fields use at least some of the basic exponents, squared and cubed. When you get into much higher exponents or much deeper roots, you get to much more higher math and that kind of stuff. But at least square, cube, that type of thing, you really need to be able to conquer that. Because then you're going to take all that stuff and you're going to put it in a gallon paint can. So you're having to do conversions. All of those are really critical. But I think that you're going to be able to handle this if you're struggling with it. And like I said, I was more of a workhorse. I had to work at it. I was able to get through this accomplishment, 2 successful careers in space and, of course, crime scene investigation. If you need help, you like help, whether you're an adult or a student, whatever age, I'd be glad to help you. You can check me out at AndersonMountainViewFarms.com. If you don't use me, that's okay. But I hope you will find help from someone that will help you build an analytical mind for personal stewardship and professional success. Now, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you for the next series as we kind of dive into each of the big five. See you next time.